football. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't. I do Packers fan, but it sure does up. I'm your host, Tom. Football, ball, throw, catch, and things. Grossi. And today we are going to be ranking the final four teams heading into Championship Sunday. And this will be the last power rankings that we're going to be doing during the 2023-2024 NFL season. Because after this, we only got two teams left. And at that point, that'd be a really, really short video. So, welcome to the final episode of Power Rankings for this NFL season. Let's get to it. Now, this past divisional round was pretty darn insane. You had some major upsets, you had some close games, and ultimately, it's a little bit difficult to try and rank the remaining teams left, but we're going to do the very best we can. Starting off at number 4. You got the Philadelphia Eagles. Ooh, I know. I'll get some heat from this, but it's okay. I'm moving to Wisconsin. I'll get enough cold. In terms of why the Eagles are at number 4, listen, first of all, the Eagles deserve a ton of credit. Their defense, good God, is so disgustingly good. Getting after Matthew Stafford, making it difficult for him to throw the ball except for those last two drives, but ultimately wound up with a win. And for the Eagles, it just seems like they don't even have to game plan anymore. They could just give it to Saquon.
And the best part of this plan is, no one can stop me.
But not only was their defense insane and able to contain the LA Rams, but talking about Saquon Barkley, and I know it gets a little obnoxious just talking about him every single week, but he is truly the difference maker from that Eagles squad last year and this year. You talk about the offensive line of the Eagles, it wasn't that great in pass protection. However, Jalen Hurts was banged up in that game. That was very evident, and we'll see kind of what his status is going to be heading into Sunday's NFC Championship game. I have no doubt that he is going to play. And on top of that, they're not going up against the Rams pass rush anymore, which they are going to be very thankful for. But the offensive line did a fantastic job in run blocking. You had Jalen Hurts in the very beginning rip one off for a 40-plus yard touchdown. Saquon Barkley had multiple long runs that ended in the end zone. And ultimately, this is the kind of team that can go to the Super Bowl. So you might be wondering, Tom, then why are you ranking them down at number 4, the last out of all these teams? And there's only a few reasons why. One, Jalen Hurts' health. That is a little bit of a concern for me right now. And if a team out there is going to be able to limit Saquon Barkley, I think the Eagles would have a tough time moving the ball. I do think Jalen Hurts is way overhated in the media, and I know this has come off sounding like I'm hating on Jalen Hurts, but honestly, it's just his health and the fact that they're such a run-heavy team. That's kind of where I'm a little bit concerned. I don't know if the Commanders are going to be the team that's going to beat them. I just think the Commanders had a more impressive win this past weekend. The second thing is going to be that pass protection. If Jalen Hurts is banged up right now, I do worry a little bit about going against some opposing defenses. Like I said, they don't really have to worry about the Rams pass rush anymore, who is arguably one of the best pass rushing defenses left in these playoffs, but ultimately it is going to be a concern. At the very end, that game definitely did get a little bit close, and it seems like the Eagles are a great football team. We just don't know if it's going to be enough to win the entire thing. I think ultimately they have a great opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl. They get to host the NFC Championship game going up against a division rival who had not yet beaten their starters. But as of right this second, I'm putting them at number 4. I think Saquon and that defense can get them all the way to the Super Bowl. It's just a matter of time. Number 3, you got the Washington Commanders. The Commanders had the most impressive win of the weekend. The 6th seed going in with a rookie QB, their first-year head coach, and knocking off the number 1 seeded Detroit Lions at home, and honestly, just an incredible win by the Washington Commanders. I'm super excited for Wildflower and their fan base, and ultimately, I guess the entire NFC North was just fraudulent.
Hey, you know who lives in this house? A great big phony! That's right, A phony lives here! A big fat phony!
But the Commanders had the most impressive win of the weekend, not only because of the quality of the opponent that they faced, and I do think the Lions were a higher quality than the Rams, another reason why the Eagles are 4, and I'm putting the Commanders at 3, but ultimately they won by the biggest margin this past weekend as well. And I think it is definitely the most shocking upset. Jaden Daniels, holy crap, man, what a rookie season he is having. He is poised, and the most important thing is he's not turning the ball over. They're not making mistakes. You look at the Lions, and one of the reasons why they lost that game was because of the amount of turnovers that they had. And in these playoffs, the margin of error is so damn small, and the Commanders, they know they're going up against some tougher opponents, but guess what? If they're not committing mistakes, it is going to be a lot easier to win those games, especially if your opponents are shooting themselves in the foot. And I know I've said this a lot this year, but talking about that Commanders defense and the expectations for them, and I know their run defense still isn't amazing, they have far exceeded expectations, and now they find themselves in the NFC Championship game going up against a division rival in the rubber match, and they have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. Cliff Kingsbury deserves a ton of credit, Dan Quinn deserves a ton of credit, Jaden Daniels, that entire roster deserves a ton of credit getting him to this point. And listen, it's going to be very difficult for them to go into Philadelphia and knock off the Eagles, but ultimately right now, Wildflower and the Commanders are on a Cinderella run. Personally, I don't want to see it end because I think it'd be really cool to see a rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl, but only time will tell to see if Wildflower can get there. And as of right now, we'll see what happens. Number 2, you got the Buffalo Bills. The Bills. Oh boy. Whew, that was a close one. I hope Bills fans are paying their respects to Mark Andrews today.
I would have followed you, my brother. My captain. My king.
But the Bills able to knock off the Baltimore Ravens, one of the toughest teams remaining in the playoffs. And I know for Ravens fans, it has been a pretty rough weekend. You got Derrick Henry in the offseason, you had another phenomenal regular season, and ultimately, we're back in the same spot. And when we get to the playoffs, there's turnovers, there's mistakes, there's drops, and now Baltimore is out of the postseason. But let's talk about the Buffalo Bills because they are the ones that are still remaining. The Bills, a lot of talk coming into this week about if they could stop Derrick Henry. Earlier in their meeting this season, they could not do that. However, they were missing all their starters like we talked about. And look what happened. They were able to contain Derrick Henry and not give him a ton of momentum in that game. Lamar Jackson definitely struggled at times throughout that game, having a couple turnovers. Mark Andrews, the defense deserves a ton of credit for punching that ball out, talking about the fumble. And also Mark Andrews may never pay for a drink in Buffalo because he dropped that 2-point conversion, which would have tied the game. And ultimately for the Bills, they definitely didn't play a perfect game. They played a much better first half, and that game started getting away from them in the third quarter. They got shut out. The Ravens scored 9, but ultimately they did enough to beat a very high quality opponent in the Ravens. Stopping a scrambling QB is always going to be difficult, especially an MVP like Lamar, which hell, the voting's already done. He might still win MVP. I know it's between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson at this point, but Josh Allen has also proven time and time again that he can take the game into his hands if needed. But the biggest difference about the Bills this year is they have a top 10 run game. They have the number 9th best rushing attack. They have the 9th best passing attack, and that balanced offense has allowed them to get to the AFC Championship game, even when it was supposed to be a reload year. Hell, I picked the Jets to win the division, and I had the Bills finishing in 3rd place because I thought, yeah, I don't know who receivers are going to be. I don't know what their run game is going to look like. And oh boy, did the Bills prove me wrong. And now they have a date with the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. And it's all about, can they finally get it done? You can beat them in the regular season, but now this is where it counts. And so, on Sunday night, we're really going to find out if Buffalo can go all the way this time. And number 1, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs. Good God, man. If you go and look at those stats from that game, you can see that the Texans beat out the Chiefs in rushing yards, passing yards, and almost every single metric, and yet still the Chiefs were able to win that game. And listen, I know there's a lot of controversy about the officiating, but I am sure that the Texans special teams coordinator is very relieved to see everyone blaming the refs instead of him on that loss.
All right.
But let's talk about this game. I think there were two calls personally that I disagree with, the roughing the passer and the unnecessary roughness, which did result in 10 points. And the Chiefs ultimately wound up winning that game by 9 points. However, taking a look at what the Chiefs were able to do on defense, they sacked CJ Stroud 8 times. The Texans were only successful 1 time in the red zone. And that defense of the Chiefs deserves a ton of credit, as well as their special teams. Because we're talking about the margin of error again, it is that small in the playoffs. And ultimately, the Chiefs just made more plays. So you might be asking, why are they at number 1? Because the Texans, they weren't the highest quality opponent. However, talking about their defense, I think they were one of the better ones remaining in this postseason. But taking a look as to why the Chiefs are at number 1, I think they just have it all in front of them. They got home field advantage. Here they are again for the 7th straight time in the AFC Championship game. And this is another team similar to the Eagles that is built to win another Super Bowl. You could get more yards than them. You can convert more first downs than them. But ultimately, you got to score points. And there's not a lot of teams that are doing that right now against Kansas City. They have all the experience in their favor with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and hell, even Travis Kelce, who looks like he's running a 6'2", 40-yard dash, and I would know because that's what I ran, and still nobody's covering him. And now they're going up against the Buffalo Bills, and I know Chiefs fans would like some revenge and knocking off the Bills, 1, because they think it'd be funny to do it yet again, but 2, to avenge that regular season loss. And ultimately, it's just about, can anybody take down the Kansas City Chiefs? And again, I completely understand the anger over the officiating. The officiating has been terrible for quite some time. And yeah, some of the better teams are going to get some more lenient calls, especially their quarterbacks. I say this fully as a Green Bay Packers fan, but the Bills, they are going to have to come in and play flawless football. The Texans, they were able to hang around for a while, and they deserve a ton of credit for that, but they did not play flawless football. Like I said again, their offensive line allowed 8 sacks. They had a blocked extra point, blocked field goal, and ultimately, that also makes a huge difference within the game. And so here we go again. It's Bills and Chiefs. One of these teams is going to go to the Super Bowl. If you want to stop the three-peat, Buffalo, you got to come ready with your A game, because otherwise it is going to be the same old story. And I am leaving the burden of proof to prove that the Chiefs can be beaten to the Buffalo Bills. The other AFC teams, they haven't been able to do it. They lost against the Bengals years ago, and then the Patriots years ago before that. But the Chiefs have proven time and time again that they do not need to play perfect football to win football games. You saw that last week. Officiating, we can even just put that to the side for 2 seconds. They did enough to win that football game, and ultimately they did. Can they do it again? We'll find out Sunday night. So just to recap, at number 1, you got the Chiefs. 2, you got the Bills. 3, Commanders. And 4, Eagles. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who should be up? Who should be down? I appreciate y'all rocking with my power rankings this year. I know they don't really mean anything, and it's all subjective, and you disagree, and that's fine. That's what this should be. I appreciate the hell out of you for just tuning in and watching all of these years. And yeah, just stay safe, folks. And I appreciate the hell out of y'all. You can always find me at Tom Grossi Comedy. All social media see down below. A big shout and thank you to all the Patreon and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack, go.